Indian football is changing. New rivalries, bigger ambitions, and questions that demand answers. Club owners, top sports journalists, bold opinions, exclusive conversations. The Indian Football Show, where the future of Indian football takes center stage.
Doordarshan Sports has been hosting the Indian Football League, a tournament that has thus far enjoyed grand success. There have been riveting matches and very gripping success stories. We've seen so many young stars emerge as well. So, to talk about all of that, we are here in the Indian Football Show. And joining me here are some of the key stakeholders in the Indian football ecosystem, be it the club owners who have been associated with the Indian football for decades now, or voices from the AIF, and also experts and journalists. So, joining me today in the studio is Mr. Lecter Mascarenhas, who's the General Secretary of Dempo Sports Club. He represents one of India's most decorated clubs. We also have Mr. Larsing Ming Savyan, owner Shillong Lajong FC, one of the strongest voices for a youth-first, region-rooted model in Indian football, and Mr. Kaushik Maulik, who is a football philosopher. Also joining me is Dr. B. Ashok Kumar, CEO, Gokulam Kerala FC. He leads a professionally run Kerala club project. We have Mr. Anurag Jacob, who's a football expert. He has a lot of journalistic experience, so would bring in that perspective. And Mr. Nildeep Mondal, CEO of Indian Football League. All right, then, so let's get the conversation started now that we have all the stakeholders assembled over here. When we talk about the Dempo Sports Club and its legacy, what weight does that term carry and what does that imply, Mr. Lecter?
Okay, let me start with saying that I'm here on behalf of our president, Mr. Srinivas Dempo. Mr. Dempo has a vision and has a passion. Dempo Sports Club was established in 1967, so we are completing almost 60 years. And over the years, right from the 70s, we have won several tournaments, several leagues over the period. And we have also contributed a lot to Indian football. Our players have represented the country over the years, right from the 70s. We have also won 5 league titles, I-League titles, and even reached the semi-finals in 2008 of the AFC Cup. So for Mr. Dempo, the vision is to now to concentrate on the grassroots. And that is the reason why he has formed this Dempo Football Academy. So it's not just for us being in the IFL, playing the league, but it is very important for us to give a lot of opportunities to grown footballers in the form of the Dempo Football Academy.
Now, talking about giving opportunity to local footballers, that's something, Mr. Larsing, you'd have a thing or two to add about. And again, there's also that aspect of local pride that you have managed to harness really well.
Yes, very similarly, I think the whole concept of Lajong, when it was actually formed, which was 1983, was with that very objective of promoting local. At that point of time, people, it was more broad-based. It was to promote aspirational sports persons at the grassroots level. And in 1983, the club was formed. It was called Lajong Sports Social and Cultural Club. And Lajong in the local Khasi Meghalaya dialect means our own. So the objective was always to promote our own footballers from the grassroots. And today in 2026, we have completed 40 years now, 43 years. And that remains our objective. Our objective today is, of course, grown much, much larger. So from a Meghalaya-centric club, we started broad-basing our agenda in the around the early part of this 2000s, and we started looking at actually the Tata Football Academy model. So what we noticed was, if you look at Indian football between the early 90s and up to the 2000s, for about a 15-odd year period, almost 70% of the Indian national team was produced by one small academy in Jamshedpur for a country of then 1 billion people. And we realized that that was also the reason why Northeastern football, which otherwise was largely blanked out. If you look at independent India, the first captain of the Indian Olympic team post 1947 was a gentleman called Talimaran Au. And he was from the Northeast. But post that, there was a sort of a vacuum. Footballing ecosystem in the Northeast was disconnected from other parts of the country. And throughout the 70s, 80s, for almost 2.5 decades, there were no footballers coming out of the Northeast. Tata Football Academy changed that, because when they started looking for talent, they'd go out and select players from the Subroto, from the then Mir Iqbal Hussain under-15 tournament conducted by the AIFF. Every time they selected a batch of 20, about almost 50% of those boys would actually come from the Northeast. That's how players like Rendidi Singh and Mama and the likes started emerging from Northeast India. And that's how the whole, funnel of talent, funnel was again created for, the talents of the Northeast to actually play in the various national football clubs that existed then. What we noticed was that in the early 2000s, while the I-League was on and there were many, many clubs participating and a lot of Northeastern footballers participating in the I-League, there was no club from the Northeast. In fact, in 2007 or 8, around the time when Dempo and Churchill were fighting, Churchill won a tournament with practically 90% Northeastern players, and Odafa and a few other very, very talented foreigners. So that's when we took the Tata Football Academy model and said that let us now do what Tata has done at the macro level in the micro level. So that was our objective. And by then we had started producing a lot of talent. Locally, a lot of our players were playing for the national clubs, which we were very happy about. But we realized that the time was right for Lajong to now have a larger national aspiration of promoting grassroots football in the Northeast for the betterment of Indian football. And in 2008, in our 25th year of anniversary, our vision therefore was to convert the club into Shillong Lajong Football Club with the objective of playing in India's National League. And since then, our story has begun. And since 2009, we have been competing in the I-League then and now the Indian Football League.
Probably Shillong Lajong took inspiration from the Tata Sports Club. So how do Legacy Sports Club can then dole out inspiration to other clubs?
Important thing is what we are missing link for all the football ecosystem I have seen last 25 years, like Shillong, Dempo, all of them. They have created a fantastic ecosystem for the tournaments, but I should think about when you talk about the ecosystem of young player to play, and more tournament has to be organized, and also the scouting system has to be followed with a more technology-driven stuff. This was a missing link. And if you're the 14 to 17, these kids, where to play and who are people to look at it, that is an important part was missing. So my suggestions of my experience with international football, particularly in Germany, what I've seen there should be a curriculum-based program has to be implemented in the club ecosystem, particularly when we talk about the academy. We are a little bit more of sake of academy and talk about a little bit of superficial words of academy. The more important thing, academy, who runs the show and what's the curriculum to be followed and what is scientific method to be followed. Because in Germany, call it, we test, not guess. So if you say a good player, what's the database? That's an important thing. And this is a missing link. Until we create that ecosystem and a pathway to show to the 14 to 17 age group, which is a missing link.
Interesting. So, Dr. Ashok, we'd request you to chip in with how that missing link is being covered by the legacy clubs and obviously citing your example.
First, I would like to thank our chairman Gopalan sir for supporting this club. Is the brainchild of Mr. Praveen, our president. We had a humble beginning when compared to the legacy clubs like Dempo and Shillong. Ours was just an 8-year-old club. We had a humble beginning by winning the state championship in the year 2017-18. But in the very next year, we went on to win Durand Cup 2019. And when we won the Durand Cup, we realized our potential. The state of Kerala, it's blessed with talented football players. Everyone who are seated here would agree with me. For the past 4-5 decades, Kerala players had been a part of the national team. And it was all about Kerala Police, which really made the national scene. But after that, of course, Kerala Blasters have come. And we as a club, when we won the Durand Cup, we really started thinking and we started aiming at the championship. And we won the I-League twice in succession. 2019-20 and 2021 we won the I-League. And we didn't stop with our men team alone. We went on to encourage the women team also. I mean, we wanted to, our chairman and the president wanted to have a comprehensive thing in the football scenario. And our chairman is, he believes in women empowerment. So he started backing the women team. And we went on to do well in the women championship also. And we won the championship thrice. From 2019 to 2023, we were the champions. So when we talk about the talent, especially the homegrown talent, we are concentrating more on the homegrown talent. Our club want to act as a platform to help the homegrown talent to be showcased at the national level. And we are doing it considerably well. And in Kerala, it's a thing like if you say that, Kalikar, that is one who plays, a player, means it's only footballer, no one else. It's like that. I mean, even though Sanju Samson is the latest thing in Kerala now, but still I have 2-3 players in my team who says that Sanju Samson's father was my coach as a football player. This is how the tradition, the culture in football grows in Kerala, which is a welcome thing. And I'm really happy to be proud of it, to be associated with this and bringing the talent to the scenario, national scenario.
Now, Anurag, you have been associated with the journey of Indian football for a while now. What are the most endearing stories that you've covered?
I grew up watching football from a very young age. Yeah. I grew up in Delhi, so Ambedkar Stadium was a part and parcel of my childhood. I've seen Simla Youngs, Garwar Heroes. I used to watch Durand Cup. India had a very strong football ecosystem. However, money talks. And I think this is where for me, that is a missing connect. If we can incentivize football the way other countries have been able to do, by cashing in on the viewership, our viewership is good. Our ISL and other leagues actually have better viewership than League One. However, we are not able to cash it. I think that is where the corporates come in, the legacy clubs will come in, because we have the talent. Football is one game that requires the least amount of infrastructure. However, it does need a scientific temper. We have the talent, we have the viewership. All we now need to do is connect the dots, and there is no reason why we cannot be a global powerhouse as other countries are. having watched football in Delhi for 45 years, I see no reason why this connect is not there. And again, it's a great testament to the game that we have survived. Football still survives and in a way thrives in India. Now we need a viable platform to launch us globally, to get all these talented youngsters who are devoting time and energy to get compensated for their talent and for their effort, and for us to break out onto the international stage.
So Nildeep, there was a time when Sepp Blatter called India the sleeping giants of football. And obviously there's that demographic advantage that we keep talking about in almost every context. So how can that be further harnessed?
Very good question, Megha. Actually, so football essentially is what we call an adversarial sport, but a contact adversarial sport. Now, what that essentially means is there's no weight categories, but it's a physical sport. In a sport like that, training is not just the only yardstick you can have development of players through. You need training and competitions, and it's a cycle. You train, you prepare for a game, you play the match, you recover. This cycle ideally goes on for 40 to 45 weeks in the best countries in the world, right? You start as early as 5, 6, because the myelination at that point in time is the highest, which is essentially means that you learn the fastest. And this cycle repeats year on year, year on year. I think countries like Spain, Germany, for example, France, you'd look at roughly around 525 to 550 games by the time someone's reaching 18, 19, 20, where he's ready for the first team. In a country like India, we do have a demographic advantage, but we also are massive, right? So we're looking at a country that's almost thinking of working in the entire Europe. So sometimes to get the best games, you have to travel a distance. Now, that involves a cost. The best answer is where you have these pockets, you have hyperlocal competitions, and you grow out of that. But then you're not really getting the benefit of the demographic, right? Because you're looking at pockets. There's a very interesting study that says about 80% of all professional minutes in India come from 35 districts. 35 districts, that's 7% of the country's population. So it clearly shows that there are pockets where there's talent. It's an 80-20. And there are pockets of football not really as popular as we think it is. Is the answer just going into these pockets and developing them? Partially. But I think the answer is also in the fact that if you look at today, across the country, especially in urban spaces, where traditionally football has not been sport number one, there's been an influx of academies, private academies popping up. That shows there's an interest in grassroots, that shows there's a market for it, and that also shows that the next generation is taking up football as a sport of choice. And I think if you have a wide base in terms of participation and the correct structures with training and competitions, there's absolutely no reason why we can't compete with the best in the world.
What are the success story lessons, in fact? What are the lessons that India can probably take from how the German model has worked? Obviously, it wouldn't be directly replicable, but what are the things that India can pick on?
You know, what we all discussion is going on. The more important thing is when you talk about the academies or the structure, what Nildeep will talk about, but the important thing, who runs the show? We have a mushrooming academies. I'm talking about the Maharashtra, in Mumbai and surrounding, there are 25,000 academies, so-called, quote unquote. And there's all a turf based, and that turf never be checked. What's turf talking about? We talk about academy, grassroots, these are our buzzwords in our country. A little flowery words, I could talk about it. The important thing is, if you see the structure in Germany or in European countries, the kids should grow for 5 to 6 years and play various level of football. The more important thing, the curriculum. And the coaches need to train, and psychological aspects very important. Food habits. Football and the coach are, and also ground is one part, but rest of the part should be taken care of more scientific approach. Like the scouting system, we call it everybody as scouts. No, scout is a special kind of a program that the scout can develop. It identify the talent, nurse the talent, and showcase the talent to the proper pool. First step should be like this to have a curriculum. So one player comes to have a coach, to have a training for the next session. He or she doesn't know what will be the next day, the training program. They come, have some PT, and they play a match, this over. This is not a right way. You have to, like a school, if you see, I've given one a classic example. In India, every school has a game teacher. But there's a game teacher, no parents going to the game teacher. Why? Because there's no marks. And how they give a marks? Because there's no curriculum. You have to follow certain curriculums. We have a fantastic infrastructure. People calls, we don't have infrastructure. This is wrong. India has a more than infrastructure of any part of the world in the country. The important thing, which is missing link, is the curriculum and the approach to the game. If you see the ratio of the attrition of players, and 8 to 10, 10 to 12, kids are superlative. If you go to the kids in schools, you want to ask, who to be? I want to be Neymar, I want to play Brazil, I want to for any club of the world, Bayern, Dortmund, or Manchester United. These are names, but these are excellence from the kids. But the same kids you ask at the age of 14, they were lost, but they understand this is not possible. We not create a congenial atmosphere. We are talking about the academies. We have more academies than any part of the world we have. I call in Mumbai itself, around more than 25,000 academies, so-called academies. But you don't know what the turf is playing. The turf is a normal turf, is a multi-purpose turf, which affects the need for the kids. We should have to create the SOP. We should create the curriculum. And in Germany, the very single word we can talk about, we test, not guess. If you say this kid is bad, and he is okay, bad. But then when I ask you why you're bad, there's no data behind. We don't have a data. And today we are talking about one of the largest IT infrastructure we have, the brains. But we never create a story of the IT. And I give one classic example. How many in this panel, how many know about the sports radiologist in India? This is very simple talk. When the player injured, you have to need a specialized people to undertake. How many people understand the sports food? These are very basic things. And we have everything. We're the best of the brand. We need to understand an objective base. You need to create a platform. And we are talking about only national. And how many clubs we have to pay? Like we have 9, 10 I-League clubs and 10 ISL clubs. Only 20, 25 clubs is what we're talking about. We need to create opportunity and also global opportunity. Let me give you an example. In an Austrian national team, one Indian player playing is Manpreet Sakaria, Indian origin. Indians are good at it. But we also opportunity for non-resident Indians. Like you have Ryan, you have already taken the EF. These are the opportunity we can definitely, but basics, things are very basics. We have to create a curriculum for the kids and also showing the pathway. Where? For 12, 14, 16, 18, where do you play? And most important, we have a lot of leagues, but who look after? In Germany, in the 3rd tier, 4th tier player, they are looked after by the scouts. They knew, I have monitored. If you see the pathway of a player in Germany, all come for 4th and 3rd division players. They are the pathway. And this is a missing link. We have to create not a jungle of words. Academy, so-called academy. But academy has to be substance and substance.
Now, this is off camera. If anybody wants to respond to any of the comments made by any of the panelists, you can certainly do so. But yeah, there's a word that you harped upon, which is curriculum. Now, what does that look at the level of clubs? When it comes to the AIFF, what does that look like? So probably, Nildeep, we start with you.
I think a very, very, very pertinent point in regards to curriculum. So about 3-4 years back, we started on our journey. This is at the time when Vision 2047 was envisioned at AIFF. We very quickly realized that our country is quite unique. And it's unique in the sense that there is no one set cultural history. There's no one set genetic predisposition. Our strength lies in a diversity. And there are very few countries in the world that has the kind of diversity our country has, right? While it is a strength, it's also a disadvantage because there's not a homogeneity. There's no one way you can play. A player in Punjab is looking for a second ball, he's physical. A guy from the northeast, he's quick with his feet, he's agile. The footballer from Bengal is smart, but he's probably not going to be tracking back as much, but he's going to make those decisions. The Goan kid has flair, so does the kid from Kerala. Now, how do you bring this together into one unified way of playing, right? So that brought us on to the next point, which was the national football philosophy. And that's, I think, something that's been built upon. It's been happening for a year behind the scenes. We should be able to hear something soon, officially. Post the national football philosophy, there's something called the national football curriculum. Now, this is the key part. You decide how you want to teach a kid and what do you want to teach a kid. And you can do that at a high level. But how does it translate into instructions? How does it translate into what you're teaching at what age to a kid? How many sessions a week? How many game sessions a week? How many matches a week? There are a variety of models. Japan, for example, has 40 to 50 knockout competitions a weekend. And it's a private competitions run across the country. South America, a lot of the football is translated onto the streets. It's ring football. There's a desire to win. In Europe, it's more about a development perspective through the processes. Even within Europe, you'll have a lot of diversity. A primary aspect in football is space, the concept of space, right? In Spain, a kid at the age of 6 is taught to pass into space. Right next to it in Portugal, a kid is taught to carry the ball into space. Now you're looking at two countries next to each other, completely different ways of teaching. What does that actually translate into? Take a step back, look at international competitions. A Spanish player is technical, you see the national team passing, there's tiki-taka.
Yeah.
In Portugal, you have legendary wingers, ball carriers. That's not by chance, that is by design. So eventually, I think within the next few months, I hope we will have the football curriculum implemented. Where do we do it? Schools, absolutely there's a gap because that's your primary touch point. Post that, the second layer of development, I think we already have it. The clubs here today and the academies that are propping up. If they get players at the age of 12, 13, 14 that have greater technical cleanliness and match experience, I don't think anything's stopping us.
Neeldeep, earlier you compared India to Europe, right? Considering the demography involved, considering the area involved, the space involved in terms of the nation being so huge. Now, because India is so big, Anurag, again, there is that heterogeneity aspect. We talked about how Portuguese style is very different from Spanish style. In India, it's all of it coming together. Maybe in athletics, because you need a certain set of attributes or traits for a person to be successful. Football can feed from all of these varied traits.
Absolutely. I will go back to also what a point Kaushik said is that no one goes and talks to the games teacher in a school. It is because it is not incentivized. However, the foundation is laid in schools. I'll take an example of my wife's home country. She's from Croatia, a country of 3 million people who have made it to 2 World Cup finals, whose players are seen in all the leagues. They have a system by which talent is identified in elementary school, which is classes 2 to 5. Each child's potential is seen. Is it football? Is it track? Is it swimming? And it is nurtured. There is a scientific temper which is also applied to sport. This is what we need. We need to develop our sporting abilities in elementary school. And we have such a homogeneity. You will find different kind of sporting talents in different demographics. All you need to is have a will and have actually a scientific program where you actually identify sporting talent and find a way to nurture it.
Lal Singh, you might have a thing or two to add on that.
So let me put everything into perspective. It's a kind of a chicken and egg situation. We need more focus into football. We're talking about curriculums, we're talking about youth development. But if you look at the larger space of the last 43 years, to be precise, there are two defining moments. One was 1983. From 1947 to 1983, India was a multi-sport nation. There were 3-4 sports that were right on top competing attention with each other. Cricket, football, hockey, kabaddi. 3-4 sports which are more or less on an equal platform. And then that fateful day at Lord's happened when India, as a young nation of less than 50 years, went and defeated, and went and lifted the World Cup, became a world champion for the first time in a young country since 1947. And that changed the country forever, at least till now. That saw basically from 1983, the nation's attention all moved towards cricket, while other sports started fading away. We had the Prudential Cup in the 87, 88. Then we had the cable, revolutions of the early 90s with colored flannel, day-night matches, and the captivation of this country towards one single sport, which eventually has culminated in the IPL. And if you look at it from a 1.4 billion country, I don't know what the data says, but I won't be surprised if more than 95% of every sporting spend goes into one particular sport. And what that has resulted in is that today cricket has become a monopoly. You see, India is supreme on the ground, it is supreme at ICC, and it is playing against subcontinental nations and a few other countries, 8, 9, 10 countries, and supreme in every aspect because of this concentrated power of nation towards one sport. Coming back to football. See, football, at the end of the day, the development of sports is no different from the development of human resource development. When we say human resource development in our country, we only talk about human resource development in terms of academics. So how did we develop as a nation? We developed as a nation because immediately post-independence, we had the IITs set up, the IIMs set up, AIMS, medical schools, engineering, management schools. And that is what produced the technocrats, the engineers, the entire human resource that has driven this nation's economy to where we are today. In the sporting world, leaving aside cricket, there was no sporting culture, and there isn't any sporting culture. And the problem is that even in Indian football, if you look at 1990, till 1990, Japan and India were almost on equal terms in terms of two footballing nations. Things changed in Japan because around that time, they revolutionized their football by setting up a 50-year vision. They set up the J-League. They set up a footballing ecosystem and went for a 50-year vision as a country. Government focus, corporate sector focus, and local stakeholder focus, all three working together in tandem for one single objective. In India, as I mentioned to you, one small academy with 2 football grounds, perhaps just one, producing 70% of the nation's national football team for 2 decades. How can you compete in Asia? And most of these kids are picked up at the age of 15, 16 from a national football tournament and sent to Jamshedpur, where they train for 4 years. Whereas in football, as Neeldeep has mentioned, if you want to develop talent, you've got to develop it at the age of 5 to 6. Because that's the time when, as kids, it's a scientific reason. He mentioned myelin. We produce the maximum amount of myelin. Our speech, our motor skills, our sensory skills are developed from the age of 4, 5 till the time of adolescence. How we eat without thinking. We've got to learn how to play without thinking. And that doesn't happen unless you engage kids in a sport from the age of 5 to 13. After that, you send them to the IITs and the IIMs, which are the academies. So that is the way development happens, and that is the only way we can actually now compete with the rest of Asia. The problem is that we are living in our own little bubble. We think we are growing better than last 5 years, but we forget that eventually we're going to have to play against Japan. We're going to go and play against China. We've got to play against the UAE. We've got to play against many focused Asian nations that have already moved forward decades back. And if we had to catch up, we have to move at a faster lane. And for that, football cannot develop unless we have a very, very strong league ecosystem. If you go back to football, if you look at, someone mentioned tiki-taka, someone mentioned Spain, someone mentioned Germany. Let me tell you, go back to 2010. Who won the World Cup? Spain won the World Cup. Look at the team. Where did those players come from? Who developed those players? Those players were developed by clubs. Half those, 70% of the first 11 was built in the La Masia Football Academy. But what did the clubs do? They built the players. What did the National Federation do? They created an ecosystem for the clubs to thrive. What did the government do? They provided infrastructure and support. That is stakeholders working in tandem, which currently is missing in Indian football, unfortunately. But I'm so sure that as a country, the good thing is that we are one of the youngest countries in the world today. We're also one of the largest emerging economies. And in the last 2 weeks, after almost my personal memory, the Prime Minister of India has mentioned football as a focus sport. So keeping that in mind and understanding that a lot of corporates are now interested in investing in football, not only from the perspective of patronage, but from the philosophy of understanding that if India is to be an economic superpower, or let's put it, if India is to be a superpower, it cannot be and also ran in sports.
Yeah.
So that is where a unified vision has to come in. from everyone to build this ecosystem. And for this ecosystem to be built, we need a very, very strong first tier league, a very, very strong second tier league, and we need a third and fourth tier league. The moment 4 tiers of Indian football are created, and each football league system is supported by clubs that have a robust youth development system, things will change. And that is what is required. If that happens, curriculum or no curriculum aside, things will happen. Because eventually, all that talent will funnel down to the top league, and from the top league to the national team. And then, when we have a ready-made product, that's when a coach can come and do the final finishing of a 5%.
So you talked about soft power and also how India is churning out talent in IT, in cricket. There were crucial moments that probably India capitalized on. For example, 1983 World Cup win or the 1990s and the opening up of the economy. Now, in the context of Indian football, what could have been those moments? Or what are such moments that we can look ahead to? And this is an open question. Anybody wanting to.
But I give you one little bit of contextual stuff. If you see that right now, the football viewership in India for all the top 4 leagues is around about 380 million viewers. And I'm also advising to German football and worldwide and Indian association. Where I found out the important thing is the football viewership is also the Indian digital viewership for the football. And overall in football, I'm not talking about any country specific or all the top 4 leagues and 380 millions. And also, if you see the FIFA records, all the Indians fan base in football are more. If you see last Qatar World Cup, the Indians has visited, they spend more. So you have money, everything we have. If you look at the cricket is definitely doing a very good, but cricket is no more, it is confined to the subcontinent sports. Yeah. And if you look at, I'm just giving a realistic, what my experience is. If you look at the cricket, the Mecca is Mumbai. If you see the Maharashtra, Mumbai cricket, the cricketers are now come from suburbs. And football, like what I'm saying, there's or whatever system to follow, but they have 24,000 academies across Mumbai. And a place called Kolhapur, if you play you and me and there were 20,000 crowds are there. There's a huge fan base and there is a huge talent there. We need to bridge this thing. And the moments we talk about, we have also a footballing history. We have to proud to say we're 4th in Olympic. We're 2 times Asian champions. We should recreate that history again. To our young generation too, we should create the history. Because if you go to German football, the young kids go to the football museum. And they said, all the legacy, we have also a lot of legacy for Indians. We never show the legacy. Our kids should know that we have also a footballing legacy in the world. And what Ms. Mingi said, rightly said, we have to create an ecosystem, strong league, and also more important, 3rd tier, 4th tier team. When the kids go to play, what is the incentivize, not money? One of the incentives, they should say, somebody is, look at me. Somebody is, they're fighting, and you go to the league in every part. They're just to finish the league. It has to be the process to intention. The league should be in such a way to present it that kids, young player, should feel, I have been looked after. I have been seen. And this is missing link.
Cricket dominated all other sport, and it has also created an opportunity now because A, the cost of entry has become massive. It has also shown us the potential of revenue generation from sport. And football can exploit that opportunities arising from people who are priced out of cricket anymore. And therefore, like I said, our viewership is 150 million for ISL till 2 years ago, which is more than League One. It is comparable to Sierra R, not taking in the global audiences. So there is an audience. Sponsorship wants audiences. We have those. We just have to make that connect for people who are priced out of football and who are looking at the aspiration that young Indians have about football and other sport to exploit that right now to get the right amount of sponsorship and money talks. If we can get that money in for the sport, changes will come.
To add to that, this is something that I would like to really put across. If you look at the La Liga, it started dying down compared to the EPL. The reasons being that in the EPL, you always had 7 or 8 clubs that could win the league. In the La Liga, there were just 2 clubs playing. So week in and week out, it's just about how many goals Madrid is going to be the next team and Barcelona going to be the next team. And you have 2 derbies, and that was the La Liga. What has happened in cricket today is that for the first time in 10 to 12 years of the IPL, we've had a dip in the numbers. We've had a dip in the numbers. We've also reached a situation where that India-Pakistan match is not as exciting as it used to be earlier. That winning the World Cup is not as big as winning the IPL. That beating a Sri Lanka or a Pakistan or a Bangladesh is not aspirationally what Gen Z gets excited about today. They want to beat Argentina, they want to beat England, they want to beat the US in some sport or the other. They want to play at the global level. And because of the monopolization of cricket, in a way, I feel that IPL is actually cannibalizing the game. And as much as we may be in the year where we have some of the largest valuations, I feel that perhaps we've reached the top of the mountain as far as cricket is concerned. And eventually, it's going to pave the way for many other sports to now come in with the youth, which is almost 50% of this country. Or maybe more. So I'm talking about Gen Z, I'm talking about Gen Alpha, and maybe even the generation thereafter. So that generation is perhaps going to look at global sports that at least 150 to 200 nations participate. Forgive me for saying this, I know I'll be very unpopular in India, but cricket is played by hardly 8 to 9 nations. Some of them are a conglomeration of islands. And in countries like England, Australia and South Africa, is the number 4, number 5 sport. So we need to, as a country, hit hard at least a few sports where we can play with the rest of the world.
Now, Kerala is a great example of kids actually playing football left, right and center wherever you look around.
Yeah, it was a different scenario when I went to Kerala 8 years back, where I had seen school children in Chennai. They always look out for 2-3 stumps and play cricket, or a tree to play cricket. In the breakup time and all, they will only have a bat and a ball. But in Kerala, it was a different scenario where I saw school children playing cricket. That kind of a thing should happen everywhere. To my knowledge, everywhere I think in school, football comes very easy for the school children. In cricket, you need a bat and a ball, whereas in football, you need only a small ball and pick up the players and a small 2 stones for the goal post, and they keep playing. Yeah. See, what I see is these kids, when they come up to a level, when they come up to a standard, getting into the school team and getting into the district team or getting into the state team at the age of 16, 17, I see a lot of these kids, talented kids, are getting misguided. They are absolutely getting misguided by because the parents have, those parents who have got good knowledge about football, they take them through the right channel. But you see in the affluent society especially, you see such kind of parents. But when you see the talent coming up, it has to be at that level, you know, the raw talent that comes up. The parents are getting misguided. The parents really do not know whether to listen to the physical director of the school or to the person who had been guiding him in the evening between 4 and 6, a local football player. He need not be a licensed coach. And they started listening to too many people, and at the end of the day, we lose the talent. I had seen many such things happening. I used to scout, be it be a girl or a boy, and then they will say that no, he said you should not sign for this club, you should go to that club, you should not sign for this academy, you should go to that academy. See, this is where I need, when a talent is really picked up, it has to be taken care, and I wish that even All India Football Federation should have that eye on that particular talent, and they should be really brought up to the national level. Because I see a lot of such talents are getting withered when they, from 16 to 18, 19, this is the time wherein there is a huge change in their career. And the other thing is none of the parents are very keen about making his son or a daughter a football player. That's another drawback. Still, we haven't thought about football as a professional career. None of them. Because, no, +2, he has to study. No, I will not allow him to come to the training session. He has to study. You lose 1 year. Such things shouldn't be there. There should be a balance. There should be a balance. I do agree, education is absolutely necessary for every kid. But when he is a talented kid, there should be a comprehensive approach from the club, parent side and the school side so that we can build them up to a better career.
This is again, when you're talking about that moment, I will go back to this particular point. I think that that moment has arrived and things are changing. So this is a true life incident, I will tell you, with what I have seen in the last 3 years. Just post-COVID, around 23, 24, when we are regrouping, creating the next batch of players, a bunch of 5 boys landed up into our academy. And 4 of them were from Bangalore and 1 was from Bombay. And I was fairly surprised. And then I asked my coach, he said, no, they've come with their parents. And these were children coming from affluent families. In fact, the Bombay boy was studying in cathedrals. So he left cathedral school, convinced his parents that he wanted to be a footballer. Parents supported him and allowed him to come all the way from Bombay to Shillong. And this, amongst the boys from Bangalore, one of them eventually went to Kerala Blasters. He played for the India national under 17 level. But this boy from Bombay who left cathedral school was in our academy for about 2.5 years. And last year, they decided to take him to Slovenia, and he's become the first Indian player to play in the UEFA Youth League in Europe.
Oh.
So this whole concept of kids of only rural areas or certain income group or that is actually now diminishing. There is an aspiration at every strata. There are a lot of kids, a lot of parents who are supporting such aspirational children. But the question we need to ask is that why does a boy from Bangalore or why does a boy from Bombay have to come all the way to the Northeast to get his opportunity? And that doesn't end there. This year, if you look at our team at Lajong, we have an entire Indian lineup. The central back there, Rudra Mula, is from Bangalore. And his parents sent him to Spain to train. He came back from Spain, didn't get an opportunity, and landed up at Lajong. And today, I would say he's one of the most exciting young Indian players that is emerging. And that is again a sign. And very, very interestingly, his mother, I realized much later when Rudra came and spoke to me very recently, was actually in the same college with us back in Bangalore. So these are the stories that are happening in Indian football. But the question is that there is a hunger, there is a vision, there is a requirement. People are ready, but do we have the infrastructure or the ecosystem to absorb, sustain, and grow this?
We have an academy. There are boys enrolled in the academy from 16 years to 18 years. We also have under 14 team, under 16 team, and there is a pathway there. But what I realize is that we have to go much beyond that. And from 5 to 12, we have to concentrate, we don't pay much attention to that. At least in Goa, like recently we had a AIFF Blue Cubs League for 8 teams. So we went to an area where we could get these 8 teams. It's very difficult because under 10, under 12, we found it very difficult to bring them out. And in the 2 of the schools, the PE teachers were girls and ladies, so they said they don't play football. So we encouraged them to come and play this league. And around 200 boys participated in this league. And previously, I believe they have never played together as a team at that age. There are competitions for 13 and 14 onwards. But this Baby Blue, AIFF Baby Blue League, they give an opportunity to these boys to represent their schools. And finally, those who were not playing football also finally started playing, and there was so much of passion among them. There was so much of talent. So what we have to do is, we talk about our academy, but we need to do a lot of work right from 5 to 12 onwards. And for that to do, we need schools, the support from the schools. Because if not for these PE teachers, if they were not supporting them, we would not play them.
Yeah.
So a lot of other issues are involved. There are examination, the competition, organization problems are there in all this. So basically, also if out of 200 boys, if one boy ends up playing to our under 14, under 16 teams, that would be an achievement. And the scouting is one of the most important things that we are not really doing. We have to keep track of this talented boys, maybe speak to their parents and educate them as what they can do. That is very important, which is not happening.
We started the conversation by talking about the Indian Football League, but the show is named the Indian Football Show. So we branched out in different directions, and all of these points are very important because they obviously fuel the larger narrative. But before we conclude this, whatever happens, obviously there'd be questions directed to the AIFF. What is the way ahead? What is your inference from all of that has happened? So Nildeep, it's over to you.
Firstly, Megha, thank you for having this show today, because the very fact that we're sitting here today and having a conversation is a testament to the fact that A, that we all care deeply about the sport, and B, it also shows that the journey which we are speaking about has already started. The way the IFL has, I want to say this on record, the way the IFL has been done this year, the way we've moved into a collective governance structure, the way we've been inclusive towards the clubs, this is the blueprint that's required. This is what we need to do to go ahead and make this successful. Football globally is a community-driven sport, and the soul of those communities are the football clubs. It's rooted in identity, it's rooted in passion. Kids aspire to be part of a club because their parents were supporting their club and the grandparents were supporting their club. That is where these clubs are so important to the ecosystem. While we set the base, there's another very crucial piece I want to talk about. That is, globally, most countries are a single sport country. Somewhere around the 6.5 to 7 trillion economy mark is where you start seeing 2 sports or 3 sports being supported. USA being the only well-documented 3-sport country, right? We are heading there very fast. And if you look at all the sports in India beyond cricket, there is absolutely no doubt that football is the sport that's primed to take up that mantle. If we play our cards right, if we do what's required, if all of us pull together, it's our country, I don't think there's anything stopping us.
Absolutely. With India's 2036 Olympic ambitions, of course, football does assume greater importance. So do other sports as well. And we've obviously also talked about cricket and probably the lessons that football can derive, can extract from how Indian cricket has arisen. So thanks a lot to each of you for presenting very unique perspectives, and this was indeed a very enriching discussion, and the conversations would continue. The blueprint, like Nildeep mentioned, to some extent has been laid out. Of course, it would continue to take shape as we move ahead, but as of now, thanks a lot for joining. That's it as far as the first episode of the Indian Football Show is concerned. The conversations continue, so stay tuned.